Hey everybody, welcome to No Plan, No Problem, the weekly D&D advice podcast where two Dungeon Masters go on a quest to try and find 3 actionable tips for you to use in your next game. I'm your Dungeon Master, Anto.
And I have entered into a dark pact, a pact of podcasting. Matthew Perkins.
You can find my stuff across the internet at icarus-games.co.uk.
And all of my stuff is over at matthewperkins.net. Now, you might have noticed that I did a little bit of a joke earlier about entering a pact. I haven't really. Calm your farm. Because we're talking about warlocks, and that's what warlocks kind of do. They enter dark pacts with otherworldly beings, and they get magical energy for it. It's quite fun. Now, all the different kind of flavors of warlock, they're mostly all casters. There's one that's kind of like uses a sword, but I don't really feel that one. But they all enter into pacts with different kinds of beings. Like the Celestial Warlock could enter into a pact with a unicorn, or the old one, the Great Old One Warlock could enter a pact with what is it, like a Cthulhu type thing, tentacle?
An ancient elder being, isn't it?
Yeah, something gross. But every kind of creature out there, some warlock out there wants to make a pact with it, and they're going to get a different flavor of abilities. And it's a player class, and we're going to talk about it today. So, Anto, what's going on? What are we doing?
Okay, so what are we doing? The first adventurer helping us today is D3ION. Dion, over on D&D Next, and they have a question about warlocks and spell slot levels. They're saying, tell me if I have this right, at warlock 2nd level, to have 2 first level slots, then when I went up to level 3, my 2 first level slots would turn into 2 second level slots, but they'd still only have 2 slots, is that correct? So they're asking how the slots and magic of warlocks work, because it is a little bit different to a lot of the other spellcasters.
When you started describing that question, then I had, like, you know, the meme where, like, that blonde lady has all the numbers behind her. It's the rhombus is shooting by. I'm like, oh, okay, if Billy leaves the train at Warlock 2 o'clock, what happens?
Man, that is what magic in D&D is, though. Trying to work out what you can do is that meme.
It is that meme. Because warlocks, they complicate everything to a stupid degree in a very simple, stupid way. Warlocks don't get spell slots, okay? You need to shake the idea that warlocks get spell slots out of your mind. They don't. They don't go like, I get 4 first level spell slots, I get 3 second level spell slots, I get 2 third level spell slots, whatever, how the magic works, I don't know. They get their packed spell slots. I can't remember what they're called exactly. Packed spell slots, something like that.
It is just spell slot. It is called spell slots, but it doesn't work like all the other spell slots work on all the other classes, which makes it double confusing. I
think they actually have a different name.
Packed magic is their spellcast, the name for their spellcasting magic, but it is divided into slots, just not slots like all the other slots, which is why there's so much confusion.
And to illustrate that they're different, and we're going to break this down because this needs breaking down. To illustrate that they're different, if you were to multi-class and be like a wizard, then you would have your wizard spell slots and you go up levels. And then you multi-class into warlock, you would have separate spell slots for each class.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with your warlock, you are only getting 2 slots to begin with. No, 1 slot to begin with.
Yeah, 1 slot at first level.
Oh, goodness. Oh, you poor warlock. Make a better pact.
Yeah,
they should unionize.
For how much? Because they are a magical casting class. They get comparatively very little magic. You know, they, in terms of slots, even at like 10th level, they still only have 2 slots. They know 10 spells and they can cast 5th level spells, but they only have 2 slots. They have to rely on their cantrips and then on their Eldritch invocations, which is their I can do some magic, but it's not like being able to just choose all my magic.
But that's the other tricky thing you just touched on. So they only have a few spell slots, right? What level are they? Are they 1st level? Are they 2nd level? Are they 3rd level? All of their spell slots are the same level. And it goes up incrementally as they get higher levels. And so that means that, like, when you are a level whatever warlock, you go, cool, I have 2 second level spell slots. That doesn't mean that you can't cast level 1 spells. That means that every 1st level spell is cast as if you are upcasting it. So if it has a feature where it's like, if you cast this at 2nd level or higher, then you can add a d6 damage or something like that. Then it's like the kind of person who doesn't know the power of their own punch.
Yeah, it plays into what I think is one of the most difficult parts about teaching new people D&D, which is magic and spellcasting. Saying to someone, you can cast spells, but here is a table and a bunch of maths, and your spell level is different to your character level, and some things are going to reference one and some things are going to reference a different one, but if you're a warlock you only get certain slots, but they're different to these kind of slots, and then you get invoke. I don't blame anyone for being like, this is too confusing, I'm just going to play a fighter.
Do you remember that scene in Harry Potter where Hagrid says, "You're a wizard, Harry," and then hands him a player's handbook?
Read all.
I'm a barbarian, and he's a rogue. We're going on an adventure. What's this accent? Sorry, I'm insulting your people.
It's no insult to me. That's why I have a green screen, because actually I'm just towering over my house and I'm just trying to keep it in perspective. This is a billboard. Like,
what accent was Hagrid? Was he like Welsh, or was he just vaguely European?
Scottish, I think.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
I see. Here's the thing: that whole region, everything just sounds. I'm going to say something that's weird. It all just sounds the same to me.
It's
I'm
fine.
like,
there's not enough of us to be really
English.
complained. Like,
no, go on.
I understand why they sound the same to people outside of the UK. Just like a lot of people will be like, oh, all American accents sound the same, or all Australian accents sound the same. I imagine there's a marked difference between kind of urban Australian versus like out in the bush Australian.
No. Every Australian sounds like me, including the women. So we're talking about warlocks, and specifically about the spell slots. And I guess the answer to the question is, hey, buddy, you got it right. Congratulations. I'm sorry it's so confusing. You should write a letter. How would you want to uncomplicate them at all, or like untangle this? Have you ever had any ideas? Or
I do think that a lot of it comes down to just naming conventions, because obviously there's spell levels, character levels. I really think that spell levels should have just been called something different, so that there is no confusion. The word level just shouldn't be involved in it anywhere. That's
true. There's a lot of crossover with words like that, where they've accidentally duplicated it. Spell level, spell slot, pact level slot. There's more that I've forgotten. I remember I had a big list of gripes that I was making in my head, going like, one day when I finally get to talk to the wizard of the coast, I'm going to give him this list of words and say, sort it out.
I think that completely tangentially, that would be on my list of things that I would want to be different in the 6th edition of the game. I would want the language to be kind of fixed and be like, right, okay, make sure that there is clear separation between what everything is, so that people don't go, wait, what's the difference between my character level and my spell level? What does all of this thing, like, it references a 3rd level spell. Does that mean I have to be 3rd level? No.
Yeah.
You don't have to be 3rd level. You want to cast a 3rd level spell and you're a warlock, you have to be 11th level. Okay, that makes sense.
It feels like an Alan Turing machine, the thing that's like spinning and it's all these slots and you're waiting for something just to click in. It doesn't make any sense. Am I thinking of a Rube Goldberg machine?
Rube Goldberg machine's what you're thinking of,
Do you know what? I'm thinking of a machine. Let's just leave it at that. We don't need to brand it. We don't need to bring in old dead dudes. Okay?
We do need to search for some kind of tip relating to this.
I forgot about the podcast that we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is going to be really obtuse. I'm going to feel free to veto this. I give you complete veto power. It's the tip: don't play a warlock.
No. I think the tip might be, if you are a DM. Normally, my advice for Dungeon Masters is don't worry too much about reading the player character stuff, because you're running the monsters and everything else. You don't need to worry about that. But warlocks do operate quite different to other spellcasters. So if you've got a player that expresses an interest in playing a warlock, I do think that it would be worth it as the DM for you to completely familiarize yourself with that, so that you can help them through that. Because even if they are a veteran player, if they've only ever played wizards, coming to Warlock is a very different kind of magic system, and even veterans are going to get confused. So against my usual advice, I would say learn the players' stuff as well.
Yeah, I reckon that's a bloody good tip, and I like it a lot. We're about to enter into our middle segment that we like to call, I'm not going to say it yet because I don't want you to click the button. I want to keep you in suspense.
Okay.
But it's a segment that I quite like. It's in the middle of the podcast. It's really friendly. It's roll for friendship. We're going to roll for friendship. Here we go. Woo!
If you enjoy the podcast and you want to help support us and be our friends, the best way to do it is interact with us over on the social medias. So like our pages, leave us comments down below this video if you're watching it over on YouTube. Tell us what we've missed. Tell us how you feel about the complex nature of Warlocks and spellcasting in 5th edition and what you'd like to change to make it easier to learn. You can also find us across the internet on various podcast platforms where leaving those juicy 5-star reviews really helps us out and pushes out to new people. And then if you want to support what we do even more, help us keep the lights on, keep Matt fed and watered, and make sure that he actually has clothes. The best way to do that is over on our Patreon, where you'll get access to a bunch of exclusive stuff like behind the scenes pre-shows. That's the word. I completely forgot the word. Where we warm up before we do these episodes. We chat about various things. Today we talked about the MCU, and you also get access to a bunch of PDF content around things that we have made or talked about in the podcast itself.
I like how you said, you glossed over this. You said we talked about the MCU. Mm-hmm. We argued about the MCU. We got into a fight. What? It was a fight.
I mean, if you are to be believed, we fight like every week. It's always a fight.
I love a fight.
Yeah.
I love a fight. So if you are watching on YouTube and you have something to say about Warlocks in particular, like maybe have you had a favorite Warlock in one of your games? I want to hear about it. My favorite Warlock in one of my games was my wife played a student named Larissa, and she didn't cast any spells because I don't think she could work it out at the time. And she had, for some reason, Warlocks get proficiency with simple weapons, and a great club is a simple weapon. So she went around this two-handed great club and just literally just meleeed everyone. She was not a hexblade. No. She was just a Warlock that bashed.
Amazing.
She was really fun. All right, let's get out of this. Thank you for rolling for friendship.
We're out of the friendship zone. What's happening next, Matt?
Brilliant. We're out of the friendship zone. We're into the horror zone. The horror zone. Because this is our segment that we like to call, I don't remember what we call it. It's
RPG
about an
horror
RPG horror story.
Yeah.
Did we name it? Did we name this segment?
Just RPG horror stories, I think.
No, I don't think it has a name. Anyway, so this RPG horror story about Warlocks comes from a spotted hyena over on the RPG horror stories subreddit. Who would have thunk? And it's in quotation marks title. It says, "I don't know how to handle a celestial warlock, so I'm going to make them useless," which is this person's DM saying that.
Yeah.
This is what a spotted hyena says. "A list of things my DM has done in an attempt to nerf my celestial warlock. Number 1, Revivify now costs 2 spell slots because you get them back on a short rest anyways. Healing Light has changed to 1d4 healing because otherwise it's better than Healing Word. The Pact of the Tome rituals can only be cast once per day, and I can only cast 2 rituals per day. The Tomb of Levistus gives me disadvantage on the next attack because you're recovering from being coated in ice." Oh no, man, this DM is getting trapped in a realism trap.
No.
"My level 10 feature only applies to me, not my allies, and it's half effectiveness, and it takes me twice as long and thrice the amount of gold to scribe rituals into my book because Warlocks aren't as smart as wizards. Okay, there's a swear word in here I can't say, but this DM's being not very kind."
No, that is a horror story. I'm not down for that at all.
A swear snuck up on me in this one. I didn't vet it good enough. Nobody go read this.
What I don't understand about that mindset is if you have that many problem with the Celestial, why let someone play it? Just be like, look, I really don't like this subclass. I'd prefer you not to play this subclass.
Do you have a problem with any subclasses?
Off the top of my head, no. But if I did, I would be comfortable saying to the players, look, I don't want you to play this subclass. Here are the reasons why. That's just my preference. If you don't want someone to play something, like I don't allow several feats and a couple of optional rules at my table, but when I have my session 0, I explain my reasoning behind it. Like keen mind is one of them, and I say, look, I take pretty good notes, but the pressure of taking notes for absolutely everything for you to have perfect recollection stresses me out. So I'd rather we not use keen mind if that's all right.
Fair enough.
Be an adult and be like, I don't like this thing, please don't use it, instead of being like, okay, I don't like this thing, so I'm just going to ruin your experience.
It sounds like this play was actually kind of blindsided by it as well.
Yeah.
Because I get the feeling, just from like the not the cadence, the pace of this little story, is that as he was getting new features, he was also getting nerfs for those features.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a thought out thing. It's like the DM was learning about these rules on the fly and then going, that doesn't sound right. I'm going to just chop the end off this and round this off a bit. There you go. Good as new, love. There you go. It's mangled.
Yeah. It's things like, oh, you get your Revivify back on a short rest. Okay. Most adventuring parties are going to take a short rest in a day. So they'll have 2 Revivify instead of 1. It's not that big of a deal because they still need the components for it, for a start. And if you really want a character to die as the DM, you're going to be able to kill him. Like, if what you want is for people to stay dead, then target the people with Revivify first, or, if you want to be that kind of person, there are ways and means without you having to nerf your characters. I do not advocate for it at all. Because, this is supposed to be fun. Don't intentionally try and murderize all your friends unless that's what they've signed up for. But
it's supposed to be fun.
This healing spell does more healing than healing would. Well, yeah, that's the whole point of this Warlock. It's one of their defining features. This player wants to play that subclass because that's the fantasy they're trying to create. Don't take away their fantasy.
Yeah, don't yuck my yum, buddy.
Yeah.
There are, when I look at this, I think there are 3 different kinds of nerfs that the DM is applying to this character. One is for balance and saying, look, it's too powerful that your Revivify comes back on a short rest. So we're going to make it cost double because it's to rebalance, right? That's wrong. And the other one is going to be, look, your healing light is more powerful than healing word, and we don't want to outshine the people that have healing word. So that's saying we don't want you to outshine other people. That's another kind of nerf. And the third one is your Tomb of Levistus gives you disadvantage because you're covered in ice. You're recovering from being covered in ice. And that's the DM nerfing something based on real-world logic.
Yeah.
And all of those reasons are like a crap. They're crap reasons.
Like the Revivify one, for example. Revivify takes 300 gold's worth of diamonds. So if you want to control the amount that people can revivify characters, control the flow of their access to diamonds. You don't have to tell them you can't have this spell. You just go, right, okay, you go to the city, you only have, the jeweler there only has enough diamonds for 1 Revivify's worth. So, okay, then we just won't use Revivify again today. We'll only use it once. You don't have to take the spell away from them to be able to control the number and frequency that they can access these spells because they have a material cost that you, as the DM, are wholly in control of.
Yeah.
In terms of the other class features, like the Celestial Resilience,
the healing light,
the giving your up to 5 friends temporary hit points. Temporary hit points are they're not a big deal. It's equal to your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier. So at most, it's going to be 25 or 26 hit points at 20th level. At those low levels, it's going to be, equivalent to a D8's worth. So are they nerfing the Cleric that has Twilight Sanctuary? Because they can impart temporary hit points every round. It's I don't understand the mentality behind, these temporary hit points are a bad thing. And then whatever the last one was, the Leviticus
Levistus,
the iciness. If you are going to apply that kind of logic to a spell like that, then you need to apply it uniformly. So you need to, whatever the reason.
So unfun.
Yeah. So whatever the reason that DM's gone, right, okay, you shouldn't be able to do this thing after you've interacted with this ability because of this reason. Anytime that kind of effect comes up, you should apply that wholesale, which is no one's going to come and want to play with you if after every time they cast a spell like that, they can't do anything. The rules are balanced around themselves, and you need to be mindful of the consequential and contextual changes that changing one rule has. So if you go, right, this fire-based spell, that inflicts burning, well, then shouldn't all fire-based spells? No, because I just think this spell specifically is underpowered, so I want it to give it an ongoing burning effect. Well, it breaks the internal logic.
I reckon the tip for this particular horror story should be, if you think you need to nerf something in your game, you have a lot of knobs and levers that you can twist and pull before resorting to nerfing a player.
Yeah.
Right? So you could change any other number of conditions in your game to adjust the difficulty or any kind of setting. You don't have to resort to nerfing a player, because that is going to really infringe on their fun.
Yeah.
Feel good about that?
I do feel good about that. You can change a whole bunch of other factors before you go ahead and change player character core concepts.
Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with this. We're doing good. We're doing good for Warlocks. So we've just got one more tip to go, and Anto, I think that you might have it for you now. Who's going to help us with this third tip?
The last tip is coming from Shining Owl 38 on D&D Next, and they have some questions. They say, "Hey there, helpful people. Can a deity be a Warlock's patron?" Can a member of the Pantheon, can a god be the patron of a Warlock?
I guess, like, maybe the point of this question, what they're getting at is, like, would you think that if a Warlock had a deity as a patron, wouldn't that just make them a cleric, Anto? Wouldn't they just be a cleric?
No, it wouldn't make them a cleric. And I'll tell you why
bad,
I think
sorry.
so.
Okay, hit me.
There's two things that I think make a Warlock, and a Cleric. A Cleric's power comes through faith. They believe in their deity, and that belief imparts power. A Warlock's power comes from their pact. They have made an agreement with something. They don't need to believe in it. They don't need to pay it any reverence beyond the business transaction that is the pact. So a Warlock can go to a god and be like, I will do X for you in return for power. That is a very different dynamic to a Cleric, who is, I believe in you, I pay reverence to you, I worship you, and you are rewarding me with that power. It's kind of a reward versus a business transaction dynamic between the two.
That's pretty fun. And that's an entirely different kind of character.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of tropes that you can explore with a cleric and someone that's tied by faith and duty and reverence, belief. Man, a warlock doesn't have to believe in anything. You can have a warlock be, like, despondent, a real kind of, oh man, perfect for an edgelord.
Yeah.
Tell you what.
You can have kind of the iconoclastic warlock who exists in a world where the gods are demonstrably real, but they do not believe in the gods being these higher beings that are worthy of respect, but they are willing to kind of benefit from their existence. They're happy to go, right, okay, I don't believe that you are an all-knowing creature, but I recognize that you exist, and if you can give me power, I will work out a deal with you. Doesn't mean I believe that you are worthy of the churches that are built in your name, but I'm happy to take some of that power, for almost like stealing from them through these bargains.
Yeah, look, honestly, at this price, I couldn't afford not to become a warlock. Look, I reckon the relationship between the warlock and the patron is something that doesn't go explored enough in games, because most other classes, you look at the kind of stuff they get in their kit, and it's just powers that you get. You make a choice and it's great. But with a warlock, there's such a great opportunity, because there's a relationship built into the class powers. And I reckon that if dungeon masters gave players more opportunities, and players asked the dungeon masters for more opportunities to explore that relationship between their patron, deity or otherwise, I reckon it could be really fun. You can get some juicy stories.
The two classes for me that offer some of the juiciest roleplay are warlocks and clerics, because they have that link to another creature that gives them their power in some way that they can have a relationship with. So in the campaign that I'm running, up until the point where we had a TPK, one of the characters was a multi-class warlock, and they had a patron, and they had conversations with that patron. They had a relationship. They were friends with their patron. And a lot of what made that character interesting came from the dynamic they had with that patron. And if that player hadn't have been interested in exploring that element of the character would have been significantly less interesting, because they would have just been a bag of powers that walked around, rather than a character that has deep and meaningful relationships with the creature providing this power.
Yeah. You know what, you've just reminded me, saying that clerics and warlocks are your go-to for that relationship. You reminded me that in Critical Role Season 2, and no spoilers, don't worry. In Critical Role Season 2, there is a warlock and there is a cleric, and both of them have direct relationships with either their deity or their patron.
Yeah.
But the cleric has like a really collaborative relationship with their deity, and the warlock has a very adversarial relationship with their patron.
Yeah.
And I think it would be hard to play a cleric with an adversarial relationship to their deity. You could do it, definitely, but I think that it comes more naturally to a warlock.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the difference. Like, you can explore different kinds of stories with these different kinds of classes.
I think that you definitely can, and bearing in mind what the character has to do to get that power, because the warlock is the pact. The character is an active participant in that. They are making a deal, whereas a cleric, in my mind, gets their power as a result of their faith. So they might go into that thinking, I'm going to be the most devout so that I get the power, but they might just be, I am going to worship this god because that is what I want to do, and as a result I get power. So the idea that you could have a cleric who didn't want the power but has been given it, and then it's like, right, okay, I've got this power now, I feel obligated to go out in the world and adventure and, spread the message of my god, etc. That could be a really interesting dynamic. And having warlocks who haven't made the pact with their patron voluntarily, who've been put in a situation where it was make this pact or die, and now they have to deal with the consequences of their patron. That's really juicy stuff as well.
I didn't mention this earlier because this character didn't actually make it into my game, but there was a friend of mine who suggested he wanted to play a warlock that was like a school teacher. And he's a divorced school teacher, and he just wants to get like his kids back, and he's grizzled, he doesn't sleep, he smokes, I just gotta get my kids back, I gotta make alimony, and like just this divorced warlock. But he became a warlock because he would accept anybody that would offer him money. He's like, I gotta make alimony, and that's his reason for entering into this dark pact and adventuring. He's like, look, honestly, the court's coming after me.
That is a funny reason to be a character, but that is deeper than a lot of characters will ever go. A lot of players will be like, oh yeah, I'm a fighter because I'm a fighter. But being like, right, okay, I'm out on the road adventuring, I've made this pact with another worldly creature because I am down on my luck and I need to make alimony. That is a really, relatable and human driving force, and there is a lot that you can do there.
Yeah, I tell you what, I love the player. He makes the best characters. I'm glad that character didn't make it into my game, though.
I would love to have that character. Alimony-seeking, divorced dad. Yes.
I'm not going to make that joke. I just self-censored. I reckon the tip for this one should be explore the relationship between the warlock and the patron.
Yeah.
You feel that one?
Yeah. That is... I think that is key to what makes a warlock a warlock.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we've done another successful podcast. Anto, do you have 3 tips written down in front of you?
I do. So tip number 1 is, as the DM, learn the warlock's abilities, because they are very different to a lot of other spellcasters, and it will benefit you to help your players kind of go through that weirdness. Tip number 2 is that you have a lot of dials and factors that you can change for balance before you resort to changing core character concepts and abilities. And tip number 3 is to really explore the relationship between the Warlock and their patron and make that kind of your focus of where you're putting your attention with the Warlock. Really dive into that.
Man, I've always felt really keen on the Celestial Warlock. Just the idea of having like a unicorn or a fey creature as your patron. So fun. So fun. Which Warlock, what kind of Warlock would you want to play, do you reckon?
Possibly Great Old One, but I do like the idea of doing the Fiend and making a Devil Pact.
Yeah, they're very cool. They're also very powerful. Usually a Warlock is a good sign that somebody's going to be doing some power gaming, but not always. Just because if they go like, oh, I'm a level 1 Hexblade, a level 2 Wizard, and you go like, there's always a Hexblade mix in there somewhere, you go, all right, you're doing something.
Yeah.
Hey, let's wrap this up. So, thanks for listening, everyone. My name has been Matthew Perkins. You can find my stuff over at matthewperkins.net.
My name is Anto, and you can find my stuff at icarus-games.co.uk.
Now, the song that plays us out every week is named Altogether by a band called House Hats. And if you've got a YouTube comment to leave us, hey, we'd love it. We want to hear about the Warlocks in your games, your favourite Warlock that you've played, or anything just kind of Warlocky. Let us know. Let us know, you witchy people. All right, thanks so much for listening to No Plan, No Problem. We'll see you later.
Goodbye!